The Millionaire's fake wife plot triggers shocking week that changed everything forever. Elizabeth Harper's world shattered in a heartbeat. Nights dragged into exhausted mornings, her chest tight with the sting of a breakup that still whispered betrayal. Work didn't help. The endless grind of a brutal quarter at a top PR firm in New York City piled stress like a mountain on her shoulders. And yet, here she was, swallowed by a glittering crowd inside one of Manhattan's swankiest hotels, the city below buzzing wild and loud, hiding its own dark secrets beneath the slick shine. The gala glittered around her, but Elizabeth felt like an outsider looking in. Every laugh seemed forced, each raised glass coated with something sharp and dangerous. That's when Mason Blackwell appeared, like a shadow cutting through the crowd. Tall, powerful, with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The kind of man whose name got whispered in boardrooms and back alleys alike. Billionaire, ruthless, without warning. Mason slid up to her side, calm and confident, as if he owned every second of the night. "I need your help," he said, voice low, eyes scanning the room with cold precision. "I want you to pretend you're my wife. Just for a few weeks. The press is circling like sharks. Competitors are trying to sink my empire. I need a shield. Someone real enough to fool them all." Elizabeth's heart hammered. Fake wife? The idea crashed against her like a rogue wave, but beneath the shock, a spark of curiosity flickered. This was no ordinary request. It was a lifeline, a way out of her mess, even if it felt like stepping into something way bigger than her. She nodded, just like that. Hesitant, unsettled, but the thrill of the unknown was stronger than her fear. Suddenly, the party blurred into a whirlwind of whispered secrets and sharp glances. Every toast hid half-truths. Every smile was a mask. And Mason, he moved through it all like a storm, drawing danger and mystery in his wake. The other guests buzzed. "Did you see Elizabeth Harper with Blackwell? Is she really his new wife?" Murmurs circled like smoke. Eyes narrowed with suspicion. Alliances formed in shadowed corners. The air crackled with tension. Elizabeth felt it too, a sudden shiver, as if the walls themselves were listening. When a private message popped up on her phone, her breath caught tight. It was a warning from someone deep inside Mason's circle. The words stung like ice. "They're coming, and one of us is already gone." Her hands trembled. Who could she trust? What had she stepped into? Out there, beyond the chandeliers and sparkling glasses, New York pulsed with secrets darker than night. And Elizabeth was right in the middle. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just quickly check that red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're at it, leave that powerful like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact." Elizabeth's hands trembled so hard, she almost dropped her phone. The warning burned behind her eyes, thick and cold. "They're coming, and one of us is already gone." Her breath hitched. What did that even mean? Who? When? How deep was she tangled now? Behind her, Mason's voice cut through the swirl of music and chatter. "We need to move, now." His usual calm was gone, replaced with a tight edge that sent a jolt through her spine. She glanced at him, searching for answers, but all she saw was the hard glint of a man running out of time. Together, they slipped through the crowd, the sharp scents of perfume and whiskey fading behind them as they ducked into the sleek back halls of the hotel. Elizabeth's heart hammered so loud she thought it might explode. The walls seemed too close, the silence too heavy. Suddenly, a deafening crash shattered the tense quiet. The doors at the end of the corridor flew open. A figure staggered in, blood streaked across a crisp white shirt, eyes wild with panic. Elizabeth froze, voice caught in her throat. "Mason!" the man gasped, clutching his side. "They got Emily!" Mason's face paled. "Emily! What happened?" The injured man collapsed to his knees before he could answer, and Elizabeth's breath caught in a tight, twisting knot. For a second, the room spun. Then Mason knelt beside him, face draining of color. "She's dead." A crack split the air, a sudden gunshot ringing out, loud and brutal. Glass exploded from the nearby window. Screams erupted around them. The hotel's glittering world shattered in a storm of chaos. Elizabeth slammed against the wall, heart pounding like a drum in her ears. Her chest burned with raw, ragged fear. Mason grabbed her arm, dragging her down to the floor, just as a second shot tore through the air. Who? Why? Elizabeth gasped, eyes wide, desperate for any clue, for anything real. Mason's hand trembled as he pulled out a small, thin file from his jacket. He pressed it into her palm. "You needed to know the truth, Elizabeth." Her fingers trembled as she peeled open the folder. The photos inside hit her like punches, snapshots of secret meetings, whispered conversations, contracts stained with blood. But one image slammed her breath away, a picture of Elizabeth, but not just Elizabeth. It was her, smiling, arm wrapped around Robert Harper, the boyfriend who broke her heart 2 days ago. Only this was different. Her smile was cold, empty, and the caption beneath read, "Elizabeth Harper, Blackwell's mole." The room tilted, Elizabeth's throat clogged. Her own reflection in the shattered glass showed a stranger staring back. Someone trapped in a story too dark to be hers. "Wait," she croaked. I didn't." Mason's eyes caught hers, cold and sharp. "You did. You've been playing both sides. Everyone thinks you're the victim, but you've been working for them all along." The whispers around the hallway morphed into sharp gasps, fierce accusations slicing the heavy air. Elizabeth's legs gave out. She sank to the floor, the weight of betrayal crushing her chest. Who was she really? The broken woman at the party? The fake wife? Or something far more dangerous? Outside, the sirens wailed closer. The night was closing in, and now everyone wanted her. But maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as innocent as she thought. The question screamed in her ear. Who's the real enemy here? And worse, can she even trust Mason anymore? Because the biggest shock wasn't the gunshots, the blood, or the lies. It was this: Elizabeth Harper wasn't the only Elizabeth Harper. There was someone else, someone out there pretending to be her. And if that was true, then what had she really signed up for? The cold wind hissed through the broken window. The game had just begun. Elizabeth's fingers trembled as she stared down at the photo in the folder. The cold eyes, the cruel smile. Then Mason's voice cut through the sudden stillness, low and fierce. You did. You've been playing both sides. Everyone thinks you're the victim, but you've been working for them all along. The hallway seemed to close in, sharp breaths echoing in the silence that followed. Elizabeth sank to the floor, the cold pressing against her skin like truth itself was freezing her alive. Then silence, broken by distant sirens creeping closer. But just when the weight of it all threatened to drown her, the sharp click of a door unlocking caught their attention. Mason stood, stiff and alert. The door at the far end creaked open slowly, and a tall figure stepped inside. Elizabeth's breath hitched, because it wasn't who she expected. "Who the hell?" Mason whispered, eyes wide and frozen. The figure moved forward, face shadowed in the dim light. Then, the faint glow revealed something impossible. It was Elizabeth. No, another Elizabeth. This woman's eyes gleamed with cold fire, lips curling into a sneer that twisted the room's air. She walked with the smooth, dangerous confidence of someone born into secrets. "Surprise," she said, voice dripping venom. "Or did you really think you were the only Elizabeth Harper?" The real Elizabeth's heart slammed against her ribs, a tight fist she couldn't loosen. She scrambled backward, pressing her trembling hands to the wall. "How? Who are you?" she croaked. The other Elizabeth laughed, dark and hollow. "I'm what you were always meant to be, the Harper who inherited Blackwell's empire from the shadows, the one who made the deal you only dreamed about." Mason's face twisted. Hatred, fear, confusion tangled in his gaze. "You're lying. Elizabeth's not." "Oh, Mason!" The shadow Elizabeth cut in, stepping closer, eyes sharp as knives. "You didn't think you could play everyone and not get burned." Elizabeth's mind raced, heart pounding like a frantic drum. The folder, the photos, all of it made sick sense now. This wasn't just a fake wife scam. It was a war. And now the enemy was standing right in front of her, wearing her face. But the shock didn't stop there. Suddenly, Mason stiffened. His hand brushed his chest, then rushed to the inside of his jacket. "I've got you," he growled low. He pulled out a small, blinking device. Before anyone could react, he pressed it hard. The hallway exploded into chaos. A deafening alarm rattled the walls. Red lights flashed like wildfire. The hotel's corridors vibrated with the sound of heavy boots pounding closer. The other Elizabeth's eyes narrowed in shock, then fury. "You traitor," she hissed, lunging at Mason. But he shoved her back, eyes wild. Elizabeth watched, breath ragged, as Mason revealed a badge, federal seal glinting cold and stark. "FBI," he said, voice hard but tired. "I was never the ruthless billionaire alone. I'm undercover, and so is she." Elizabeth blinked, heart stalling. "Wait, what?" Mason glanced at the woman who looked exactly like her. His gaze, full of years, twisted into secrets. "Two sides of the same coin," he said, voice breaking a little. "The Harper twins, separated at birth. One raised to protect this empire, the other to destroy it." Elizabeth's world splintered again, but this time sharper. A fracture she felt in her bones. "You're my sister?" The question hung, raw and wild. The other Elizabeth smiled darkly, stepping forward. "Blood doesn't matter. This game's bigger than family, bigger than love, and only one of us walks out." Sirens screamed closer. Mason reached for Elizabeth, his hand firm, urgent. "This isn't just about your fake marriage. It's a war on everything you know, on who you are, and which side you'll pick." Elizabeth's chest tightened, her mind spinning chaotic spirals. The hallway closed in with heavy steps racing toward them. And all she could think was, who am I really? And which sister is the real enemy? Because now, the truth wasn't just shocking. It was twisting the entire game and her life inside out. The maze had no exit yet. The cold wind cut sharper, and the real war had only just begun. The sirens grew louder, pounding like thunder outside the hotel walls. Mason locked eyes with both Elizabeths for a tight moment, sweat beating at his temple. His hand tightened on the badge, his shield, his truth. Yet doubt flickered behind that sharp stare. "Listen, we don't have much time," Mason said. "Security's cutting off every exit. We have to get out, through the service stairs." The shadow Elizabeth smirked, stepping closer, dispelling the brief flicker of unity. "So we run? Or maybe we settle this here, once and for all?" Elizabeth's breath hitched, chest tightening like a vice. The woman, her, was a mirror, but not just in looks. It was dark fire staring back. But before anything could happen, the hotel's power snapped. Everything plunged into darkness. A strangled gasp rose from the hallway, swallowed immediately by the heavy silence. Then, an ear-splitting scream. Elizabeth spun around, heart pounding in her ears like war drums. A spotlight burst alive overhead, and the world fell apart. There, in the flickering light, a figure lay twisted and broken on the marble floor. It was Mason. Blood bloomed across his crisp white shirt, dark and glistening. His throat moved, silent, and then he smiled, slow, cold, deadly. Surprised? His voice was low, mocking, and smooth like silk dragged over steel. Elizabeth froze, eyes wide, hands trembling. She blinked, trying to force sense into the nightmare. "What, Mason? You're hurt!" He laughed, dark and broken, clutching at the crimson spreading down his chest. "No wound," he growled, "can kill a secret." He eased back, lips curling into that sinister smile, as the shadow Elizabeth backed away, eyes darting. Because Mason hadn't been Mason at all. He was someone else entirely. From the shadows behind the real Elizabeth, a third figure stepped forward. Calm, smiling, a man. Tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes as cold as the winter streets. And impossible. The bloodied Mason peeled off a mask, one that Elizabeth had never even seen before. Underneath, a different face. "Meet your real enemy," the man said, voice low and cutting. Elizabeth's heart hammered wildly, her vision blurred. "Who?" she whispered. The fake Mason stood, straightening his jacket with practiced ease. "I'm Liam Blackwell," he said, "the real heir to everything, the empire, the lies. And I've been playing you all from the start." A brutal silence fell. Then, "Liam?" The shadow Elizabeth's voice cracked with shock. "You?" "That's right," Liam cut her off. "I never left. I was hiding in the darkness, watching my empire crumble over fools playing at family." Elizabeth shook her head, fear bleeding into confusion. Mason was the man she feared, the man she trusted. But now he wasn't a man at all. He was a lie. And the truth? It was far darker. Behind Liam, another voice echoed. A gasp, sharp and panicked. The real Elizabeth's phone flashed on the floor, screen shattered, but alive. A message blinked bright and clear. "He's not who he seems. Trust no one. The real war starts now." Her hands shook so badly, she nearly dropped the phone again. The two Elizabeths eyed each other, then Liam, then Mason's empty eyes. Everything twisted inside her. Nothing was safe. Not family, not love, not even herself. And in the sudden chaos, just one question screamed in Elizabeth's mind. Who is the real Elizabeth Harper? And more terrifying, who is the monster wearing her face? The hallway fell silent, heavy with secrets darker than any night. And somewhere deep inside, Elizabeth knew this was only the beginning of the nightmare. The hallway hung heavy with silence, broken only by the faint buzz of Elizabeth's shattered phone screen. Her chest tightened. Two Elizabeths, one dark and dangerous, one trembling but real. Or was she? Everything blurred. Liam Blackwell's cold stare cut through the tension like a knife. "I'm the real heir," he said, voice steady and hard. "All this? Just a game to distract you." The shadow Elizabeth shifted, eyes narrowing. "Don't believe a word he says," she hissed. "This empire was mine long before he hid in the shadows." Elizabeth's heart burst with confusion and fear. She wanted to run, to cry, to scream. But before she could move, Liam took a step forward, his voice dropping low. "Enough. You think you've won because I showed up? You don't understand the stakes. Everyone here is a piece, and the board's about to flip." Then, without warning, the ground beneath them jolted. The lights flickered violently. A deafening rumble tore through the building. The ceiling cracked. Dust fell like rain. Elizabeth gasped, frozen. Suddenly, the wall behind Liam exploded inward. A swarm of black-clad men poured in, faces masked and guns drawn. Chaos ignited. Shouts rang loud. "Everyone down!" a harsh voice commanded. Elizabeth, the shadow Elizabeth, Liam, even Mason's still form, tumbled to the floor as a man moved forward. His voice was sharp and clear. "This is a federal raid. Hostages taken. Blackwell operation is compromised." Elizabeth's breath hitched. Her hands clenched the cold marble floor. But what happened next tore her heart from her chest. One of the masked men pulled off his mask. It was Robert, her ex, the man who'd betrayed her days ago. His eyes, hard and unreadable, locked with hers. "I'm sorry, Lizzie," he said quietly, but with iron in his tone. Had to play the role. Had to get close. Her body shook, betrayal clawed deep. "Why?" she whispered, voice breaking. Robert's jaw tightened. "Because the real enemy isn't outside. It's closer than you think." Suddenly, the shadow Elizabeth pushed herself up, cold smile splitting her face. "You all don't get it. The whole story's a lie." Her eyes flicked between Elizabeth and Robert. "I'm the one who set this up, and all of you, pawns in my game." Elizabeth staggered back, heartbeat wild. "What?" she gasped. "Yeah," the shadow Elizabeth said, voice dripping with venom. "I'm the real Blackwell heiress. I used Mason, Liam, you, to take down a world that tried to bury me. That's why I killed Emily. Why Mason played FBI. Why Robert pretended to be your lover." A scream clawed from Elizabeth's throat, raw and broken. Robert knelt beside her, soft suddenly. "Lizzie, none of this was meant to hurt you. But you're the only one who can stop this now." Before she could speak, the building shuddered again, louder this time. The chandelier cracked. Glass exploded from the lobby's giant windows. And then, from behind the wreckage, a new figure appeared. Tall, calm, a ghost from a forgotten past. Elizabeth's breath caught, frozen solid. The man stepped forward and whispered, almost too quietly to hear, "Surprise, it's me." Her world shattered again. It wasn't just two Elizabeths. There was a third. One they never saw coming. The original Harper. The true Queen of Shadows. And she was coming for them all. The hotel's halls crashed around them, sirens wailing like banshees outside. Elizabeth's chest burned. Tears stung her eyes, not from pain, but from a terror that this nightmare had only just begun. Who could she trust? Who was lying? And most terrifying of all, who was the real Elizabeth Harper? The hotel trembled. Dust rained down like cold needles. The ceiling groaned above them. Elizabeth's lungs burned with sharp panic, each breath raw and ragged. Her eyes darted between Liam, the shadow Elizabeth, Robert, and the fallen Mason. Everything spinning faster, falling apart around her. Then the air shifted. A long, slow voice cut through the chaos. Enough. It was soft, but it froze everyone like ice water. Elizabeth whirled toward the sound. A figure stepped out from the wreckage. Tall, calm, wrapped in a long coat that dragged behind him, eyes hidden beneath the low brim of a hat. "You're all puppets," he said, his voice low and lined with iron. "Dancing on strings you don't even see." The room held its breath. He pulled back his hat, and Elizabeth gasped. It was Mason, but not the Mason she'd seen tonight. This Mason was older, hardened. His eyes didn't flicker with trust or lies. They burned with something dangerous, raw, and familiar. "Who?" Liam stammered, stepping forward, hand twitching toward a weapon. The older Mason raised a hand, slow, deliberate. "I'm the real Mason Blackwell," he said, voice cold as steel. "The one you've all been chasing ghost stories about." A silence slammed down. Elizabeth's heart shattered against her ribs in confusion. "But you died," she whispered. The Mason in front of her smiled, bitter and slow. "No," he corrected her. "They wanted you to think that. Everyone. The fakes, the lies, the masks, they were mine to control. I went dark, watched as the empire I built fell apart, piece by piece." He turned, eyes narrowing on the shadow Elizabeth. "You're a ghost, just like me. A shadow with no soul. The plan was to pit you all against each other, while I waited and waited." Elizabeth's head spun, her stomach twisted sick. "That means," she breathed, "all of this, the fake marriages, the betrayals, none of it was real?" Mason's smile curled sharper. "Exactly." He stepped forward, the sound of his boots hard on the cracked marble, like a drumbeat of doom. They made a mistake, thinking the Blackwell Empire could be shattered without the king's return. The shadow Elizabeth laughed, dark and hollow, but it faltered. Liam clenched his fists, rage and fear twisting his face. "You lied. You played us. You killed Emily. You used all of us. For what? Your revenge?" Mason's eyes flicked cold. "For survival." Elizabeth's breath caught, her chest tightening as the real story unraveled in front of her. Then, a sudden sharp sound. a breathless gasp from behind the older Mason. She barely registered it. Then, the floor beneath them trembled violently. The hallway cracked open with a deep, bone-shaking roar. From the broken floorboards, a shadow emerged. Not a person, a hand. Slow, deliberate, ripping through cracked tiles. Then another, and another. The room froze in stunned horror as from the jagged floor climbed her, the third Elizabeth, eyes wild, lips bruised, skin streaked with dirt and blood. She dragged herself up like a monster from the depths. "They think you're the heirs," she rasped, voice broken but fierce. Elizabeth's world shattered again. "I'm the real Elizabeth Harper," she hissed, eyes burning. "But not a victim." The monster Elizabeth pulled off a mask, a black, cracked piece of plastic. Underneath, a glowing, metallic skull. And her voice warped into a cold, mechanical rasp. "I'm an experiment. The last step. The weapon nobody saw coming." The room exploded in shock. Liam's jaw dropped. Shadow Elizabeth's sneer froze. The older Mason's face twisted in disbelief. Elizabeth staggered, trembling, the weight of this impossible truth crushing her. Julia Harper, the lost twin, the hidden sister, was not human. She was something else. Something designed to destroy. And she was here to finish the game. The building shuddered again. Sirens blared like banshees. Weaving through the chaos, Elizabeth clutched her chest, voice barely a whisper. "What the hell have I become?" The nightmare wasn't just beginning. It was evolving. And nobody was ready for what came next. The metallic skull shimmered under the flickering emergency lights, cold and unforgiving. Elizabeth's fingers curled into fists, the rough marble biting into her palms. Her breath hitched, chest tight enough to choke on. The nightmare had just slid deeper. Julia Harper, the lost twin, the so-called experiment, was something else entirely. Not just a sister, not just a weapon. Something else. Something monstrous. But before any of them could move, the building shuddered again, louder this time, like it was about to collapse. And then, through the dust and wails, a new sound, sharp and clear, sliced the chaos. A child's voice, soft, terrified. "Mom?" Every head snapped toward the broken entrance. Elizabeth's heart stopped cold. A little girl stood there, trembling against the crumbling wall, maybe 6 or 7, dressed in a tiny, blood-streaked dress, eyes wide and wet. "Mom," she repeated, voice cracking. "Where are you?" The room fell dead silent. Mason's older face twisted, eyes flickering with something raw, something he tried hard to mask. Elizabeth's breath caught in her throat. She stepped forward, kneeling slowly. "Sweetheart," she whispered, voice breaking. "Who are you?" The girl shifted then, eyes flickering strangely, too wide, too knowing for a child. Slowly, She lifted her hand. Fingers curled, but not like a child's. Her palm, translucent, glowing faintly. Electric sparks danced across her skin. Elizabeth stumbled back, heart hammering, mind screaming. "No," she gasped. Julia's metallic skull mask clattered to the floor as the little girl's face rippled, shifting, and beneath that terrified child's eyes was the face of Elizabeth Harper. Her face, all of it, broken, shattered, but real and alive. In that instant, the terrifying truth slammed down like a crashing wave. The monstrous Julia wasn't a sister at all. She was a copy, a shadow, a weapon made to replace this little girl. The real Elizabeth, trapped, hidden, lost somewhere beneath the wreckage. The game had just changed. Elizabeth's chest exploded with pain. She dropped to her knees, the weight of 1,000 betrayals crashing hard. Who? Where? What happened to me? The little girl's voice trembled, soaked in fear. Mason's older eyes softened for the first time. "Kid, you're the real one, and we've been fighting to get you back." Before Elizabeth could gather her shattered thoughts, a hand reached through the dust and grabbed hers, strong, steady, warm. Robert, her ex, but his face was bare. No more lies, no masks. "Thank God," he whispered fiercely. "We're running out of time." Behind them, the shadow Elizabeth, the fake Blackwell heiress, laughed, cold and cutting. "You fools," she spat. "You think the real fight is for the Empire? It's you, she, the girl with no memories, the one who holds the key." A sudden explosion rattled the walls. Debris rained down like death. Elizabeth's breath hitched as she glanced at the little girl. Her own face, but lost, scared, confused. The sirens blared louder, the world closing in. And right then, the biggest shock hit. The little girl's eyes flashed, bright, brutal, and she whispered, "Mom, don't trust them." Elizabeth's knees shook. Her mind cracked. Her own daughter, whispering lies, or the deadliest truth yet. In the ruin and chaos, one question echoed louder than any gunshot. Who is she really? And the nightmare wasn't any more about twins. It was about a stolen past, a hidden child, and a family torn apart by the cruelest secret of all. Elizabeth Harper wasn't just fighting for her life anymore. She was fighting to find herself. But the question screamed inside her. Was the monster hiding under her skin? The shadows lengthened. The game had only just begun. The little girl's voice trembled through the chaos, sharp and fragile as cracked glass. "Mom, don't trust them." Elizabeth's breath caught. Her hands shook so badly, the dust on the floor trembled beneath them. Robert's grip on her wrist was strong, but gentle, a lifeline in the madness. Outside, the sirens screamed louder, echoing like thunder through the crumbling hallways. The walls groaned as the building threatened to fall apart around them. "Who is she? What is she?" Elizabeth whispered, eyes staring hard at the trembling child, her own face alive with fear and something else, something unreadable. Before Robert could answer, a voice cut through the wreckage, cold and steady. "Enough!" Heads snapped toward the doorway. A figure stepped in, tall, silent, wearing a dark coat stained with dust and blood. The air froze. Every heart slammed against ribs like a hammer. Elizabeth's throat closed tight. The figure pulled back a hood, and the room gasped. It was the real Elizabeth. But not like the one here. This was a version of her no one had ever seen. Eyes wild, pupils black like the deepest night. Her skin pale, almost glowing, lips cracked and bleeding. A twisted smile stretched wide, sharp teeth flashing. "I've been waiting," she whispered, voice hoarse but deadly calm. The little girl backed away, eyes locked in terrified recognition. "Mom?" "No," the woman said, voice low and cruel. "Not anymore." Robert's jaw clenched. Mason's older face tightened into a grim mask. Elizabeth watched, frozen, as this new version of herself stepped closer, with slow, deliberate steps. "I'm the original," she said, "the real Harper you were never meant to find." A sharp crack echoed. The floor beneath them trembled, splintering open like a wound. From the darkness below, a metallic, humming sound rose, a pulse, electric and alive. The twisted Elizabeth smiled wider, stretching out her hand, revealing fingers, ending in gleaming black claws. Then she tilted her head, eyes burning with cruel light. "I am the virus in your blood, the shadow in your mind, the secret you buried." The little girl screamed, clutching her face, while the shadowed Elizabeth lunged forward. Elizabeth, real Elizabeth, felt her world spiral into darkness. Pain ripped through her skull, sharp, twisting. Images crashed inside her mind. Voices, memories not hers, but feeling like home. Suddenly, her body convulsed, eyes closing. When she opened them again, she wasn't on the floor, but somewhere else. Cold, silent, a sterile white room. Her reflection in a shattered mirror caught her breath. Her face, her own, but her eyes, they held no fear, only emptiness. A voice crackled over a speaker. "Subject Harper 347. Awakening protocol initiated." Elizabeth's heart seized. "Who am I?" he gasped. The door hissed open, and through the haze, a familiar silhouette stepped inside. Mason, or what once was Mason, but his eyes flickered with something mechanical. "I'm not your enemy," he said, voice calm but distant. "Not yet." Elizabeth's breath hitched, because now nothing made sense. The sisters were shadows, the heiress was a weapon, and she, the Elizabeth standing there, trembling, might never have been real at all. The world was breaking, and the game, it had been rigged from the start. The question wasn't who to trust anymore. It was who had been alive inside the lie. And worse, was Elizabeth Harper herself just another secret waiting to die? The sterile white room pulsed with cold light. Elizabeth's chest rose and fell fast, her breath twisting like a knife deep inside her ribs. The speaker crackled again, slicing through the thick silence. "Subject Harper 347. Awakening protocol active, it repeated, flat and unforgiving. Mason stood nearby, his eyes flickering with something mechanical, but even worse, distant. His voice was calm, but so weirdly empty that it sent a shiver through her. I'm not your enemy. Not yet. Not yet. The words echoed in her head. Then, the door hissed, opened, and everything shattered. A rush of cold air slammed into the tiny room, carrying with it a thunderous roar. Elizabeth's head snapped up. Out of nowhere, flashing lights burst through the glass walls. Voices, yelling, screams. Move! Get out! Now! The pain in Elizabeth's chest was screaming louder than her pulse. Before she could scream, a sharp metal arm crashed through the glass, splintering shards everywhere. She ducked back, heart hammering. You don't belong here, a voice snarled, low, brutal. Elizabeth froze. The metal hand curled into a fist. Then, the arm pulled itself in. Standing in the doorway was a man. Not Mason, not Liam, not Robert. Someone new. Tall, dark, face hidden deep beneath a twisted hood. Eyes glowing sharp, cold as ice. He stepped in with slow, deliberate steps, his voice like gravel. I'm the one who built all of this, he said. Elizabeth's breath stopped. Every lie, every mask. The blood literally drained from her face when he pulled back the hood. Her own face stared back at her. Same eyes, same jaw, same trembling lips, but colder, harder. Me? The man smiled, almost tender, and yet full of poison. I'm yourself, the one no one remembers. Her head spun, the room tilted, her legs nearly gave out. Wait, what? I don't understand. The figure took a slow step closer. You think this nightmare began with two Elizabeths? Or with fake marriages and broken empires? His voice dropped, darker. It started when you first woke up, when all of this was just a program in the mind of a girl, trapped in a memory loop. Elizabeth's heart twisted tight like a noose. I'm a prisoner? The shadow self nodded. You're not human, Lizzie. Not really. No, she breathed, shaking. You're a construct, a digital ghost. The real Elizabeth Harper died years ago. The room went deathly quiet. Elizabeth's breath caught in her throat, heavy like a stone. Then, what am I? What is any of this? The fake Elizabeth smiled, the cruel twist of his mouth splintering the last of her hope. All the people you thought you knew, the sister, the twins, Mason, Robert, they're all subroutines, characters in the simulation. Her fingers trembled, clutching the floor like it could hold her upright. This isn't real. Only you're real, the ghost whispered, stepping right up. But even you've been hijacked, trapped inside a machine built to break you. Elizabeth's eyes flooded. No, this can't be true. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, the lights flickered, the speaker crackled again. Warning, memory overwrite in progress. Emotional stabilization failing. Core identity at risk. Elizabeth's throat closed tight with terror. behind the glass, alarms screamed. Hands gripped her shoulders, the cold fingers of the digital cage tightening. Her last breath caught, and then the screen behind her lit up in a sudden burst of impossible images. Faces, smiles, lies, and one final, brutal message, etched in red letters, glowing. Welcome to the Blackwell Project, Subject Harper. Your life was never your own. On the nightmare, her legs collapsed, her mind shattered, and the nightmare peeled open, wider than ever. Who was she? What was real? And maybe, worst of all, had she ever truly lived at all? The cold white room cracked open with a sudden burst of light and sound. Elizabeth blinked, heart racing so hard she thought it might break her ribs. The truth hit like a slam. She wasn't real, not in the way she'd always believed. Just lines of code, echoes trapped inside a machine. But even buried in that electric cage, something fierce stirred. The real Elizabeth, the girl lost beneath layers of lies, still fought to breathe. The older Mason's voice cut through the haze. "I'm here," he said, steady but raw, "and I'm going to get you out." A sharp crack echoed as the glass door shattered, screams flooding the space, the fake voices, the twisted lies, the empire built on ghosts. They all broke apart, and suddenly, Elizabeth's own mind exploded open. Memories she thought were hers crashed in. Flickers of laughter, stolen kisses, betrayals, real and cruel. She was more than a program, more than a shadow. She was a spark, a chance. The door swung wide, chaos rushing in. Robert's eyes, clear, no longer filled with secrets, met hers. "We're out of time," he said, grabbing her hand. Behind them, the shattered room flickered, the shadows of twin Elizabeths dissolving like smoke. The older Mason gave one last sharp nod. "This isn't over, but you're waking up." Elizabeth's breath caught, chest tight but fierce. She wasn't alone, not dead, not finished. Outside, sirens screamed, lights flashed. New York never slept, and neither would she. The nightmare peeled back, revealing a thin slice of dawn. A question throbbed inside her. Who was she now that the masks were gone? And, when the game started again, who would she choose to become? The screen faded to black, but one thing was crystal clear. This isn't just a story, it's a fight. The fight isn't done, and you need to subscribe now. Don't pause, don't think twice. Hit that red button below so you never miss what's coming next. Smash the like button right now to feed the algorithm. Only true fans know how hard this channel works for you. Flood the comments with your reactions, your theories, your wildest guesses about who Elizabeth really is. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how it ends. This is the moment to show your support, because the story isn't over. It's just getting started.